can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Here are the facts. Over the span of human history, numerous empires have collapsed. Some collapsed gradually over the course of centuries, while other civilizations experienced more drastic declines. Experts agree that collapses are the result of multiple factors, but the details are often murky and subject to intense debate. For example, war, natural disaster, and disease can all contribute to the downfall of an empire. But these aren't the only factors. Some experts believe there's an additional way to explain the mysterious downfall of civilizations across the globe, from places as far-flung as Southeast Asia to Mesoamerica, and this explanation doesn't just apply to ancient empires. In fact, it could become a factor in the decline of modern civilization. What if water, or the lack of it, can doom a society as easily as war? Here's where it gets crazy. Currently, climate change is at the crux of an ongoing scientific debate. How much change can be attributed to humanity? How much change can we attribute to large-scale natural cycles? Regardless of the answers to these questions, there's evidence that ecological changes can topple empires as easily as war or disease. Consider the ancient Indus or Harappan civilization. Fed by mighty monsoon-powered rivers, this society extended across modern-day Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan. The civilization declined between 3,900 to 3,000 years ago. Why? To understand what happened, we have to examine the phenomenon known as insolation, which Charles Choi of Life Science defines as the solar energy received by the Earth from the Sun. Insolation varies cyclically, and as the region's insolation levels declined, the monsoons also decreased. These weakened monsoons led to a decrease in water for agriculture, and over time Harappan cities were unable to support their populations. This story is not unique. Consider the Mayan Empire, which mysteriously collapsed in the 9th century CE. Investigations by experts at the University of Southampton suggest that a series of droughts in the 9th and 10th centuries triggered the downfall of the Mayans. While drought was by no means the only factor in the extinction of these civilizations, scientists are increasingly aware of its importance in large-scale collapse. And while it may seem easy to argue that technology can prevent these disasters, this is not always the case. Drought also spelled doom for the ancient city of Angkor in modern-day Cambodia. As the capital of the Khmer civilization, Angkor covered more than 385 square miles. The city had a robust infrastructure, using channels and reservoirs to preserve water from summer monsoons. However, water levels dropped drastically around the time of Angkor's collapse, and these preparations weren't enough to cope with the changing environment. Let's fast forward to the present. How could changes in the global water system affect modern civilizations? In Stephen Solomon's Water, the author examines how this crucial resource has affected the course of human history, ultimately arguing that water will play an equally important role in a future already challenged by overpopulation and pollution. For some theorists, the concept of climate change or a future filled with water wars is suspect and alarmist. But across the globe, the ruins of empires stand as a mute testament to the importance of water and the consequences of its absence. Are fears of global catastrophic climate change cause for genuine concern, or are they, as some have argued, a cover for something else? Something the world's governments don't want you to know. Here are the facts. The earliest mention of Atlantis dates back to Plato's book Timaeus, which was written in approximately 350 BC. According to Plato, the Atlantean civilization was located to the west of Gibraltar, beyond the Pillars of Heracles. The people of Atlantis angered Poseidon, who sank the city in a single day. Later writers embellished this story, adding increasingly outrageous details. That Atlanteans were aliens, for example, or that they possessed highly advanced technology. Today, historians dismiss these claims, and the ancient city, which Plato claimed existed 9,000 years before his time, is generally thought to be a myth. This hasn't stopped explorers from searching around the globe. Mystics, archaeologists, and even Walt Disney have spent time on the mystery. Could they be correct? Could Atlantis be real? Here's where it gets crazy. Probably not. At least, that is, there probably wasn't a civilization in excess of 10,000 years old with space-age technology and an unfortunate tendency to irritate sea gods. At this point, no one site has become universally acknowledged as Atlantis. In fact, it's generally thought that Plato's story was meant to prove a point about hubris more than to memorialize a real city. Yet it's not unreasonable to ask if Plato's account could be inspired by real events. And if Atlantis ever is found, then it won't be the first time that we proved a legendary city actually exists. Consider the case of ancient Troy. Mentioned in both the Iliad and the Odyssey, Troy was thought to be fictitious until German archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann rediscovered it in the 19th century. Schliemann's work revolutionized archaeology and lent hope that other lost cities could be rediscovered. Today, people have searched for Atlantis in Japan, Morocco, Nigeria, Spain, and even the United States. Two of the most plausible inspirations for Atlantis are Minoan Crete and Helike. Both experienced disastrous events that parallel the anecdotal destruction of Atlantis. A volcanic eruption in 1490 BC damaged the Minoan Empire. In 373 BC, Helike was struck by an earthquake and a tsunami, submerging the area. The transformation of Helike or Minoan Crete into Atlantis could be attributed to something as simple as mistranslation. When archaeologists rediscovered Helike, they found that nature had repeatedly destroyed communities built on the land, and signs of human habitation there dated back as far as the Bronze Age and the Neolithic period. This discovery hasn't stopped the search for Atlantis, or the strange rumors about it. In 1938, the psychic Edgar Cayce predicted that part of Atlantis would be discovered in the 1960s. For his advocates, the discovery of the Bimini Road in 1968 proves his case. Cayce made other predictions about Atlantis, but his claims aren't the strangest ones out there. There are also diaspora theories, which argue that Atlantean survivors created the Olmec, Egyptian, and Mesopotamian empires. Writers like Eric Dubé claim that there may be a conspiracy afoot, that the Illuminati, an alleged secret society, originated in Atlantis and has covered up the true story. This theory isn't taken very seriously. Yet history is far from clear-cut. It's possible that future archaeologists may discover ruins that match Atlantis more than Crete or Helike. To the mainstream, we can't find the legendary Atlantis because it is fictitious. The best we can hope for instead is to find the civilization that inspired the story. According to Dubé and other theorists, however, the true story about this lost civilization is something the Illuminati doesn't want you to know. If they actually exist, that is.
Don't you realize, Professor Norton, that Uncle Khan wants you to help him take his tower to the upper world and destroy civilization?
I don't understand.